Thanks, Ray. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Ray and Chris and his team on what they've done here, putting on this conference. It's a real eye-opener for me, and I'm sure it's going to be enjoyed by everyone, and it'll be repeated in many years to come. Just to let you know who I am, I spent 35 years in the organisation in the Queensland Fire Service. Started with the Metropolitan Fire Brigade back in '75. I couldn't find a photograph with me in uniform except for that one. That was my son's graduation day in 1998. He's got 20 years service now. He's a senior station officer down at Beenleigh, young fella. I spent a bit of time in training, involved with the Q-STEP program, wrote a couple of those programs. My main area of expertise in those days was hazmat. Worked at the State Training Centre, all of the recruits go through there. I was a recruit administrator for the Recruit Training Centre in those years. Transferred to Gladstone in '97. Did some time in Rockhampton as an area director up there. Did some time as Assistant Commissioner up there as well. And finished up my career at Maroochydore. And during that, the last couple of years, the Fire Service decided that they needed a state incident management team. And they actually put two teams together, Team A and B. And they were a mixture of rural firefighters, bush firefighters and urban staff. And they tried to develop some expertise in the upper level incident management. So we're going to look at incident management today. I'll try my best to keep it as interesting as possible. So the session will go through three aspects. We'll look at the incident management system that's used in Australia and in Queensland in particular. I thought I'd throw something in about command presence. Anyone heard much about command presence or what it is? Police officers are all nodding their head here, the ex-coppers. And I also want to do a little bit on situational awareness. Any ex-military people here? You'll all be aware of this stuff. The loss of situational awareness can have some really adverse effects on what you're doing at the time that you lose it. And it can happen so quickly and easily. And I'm not going to stand here and tell you everything. I'm going to ask some questions, because I'm sure there's a lot of expertise out there amongst all of the different people and where they come from. So we're going to provide you with an appreciation of the incident management systems for managing emergency incidents. Now, whether you get to be involved in those things in your daily working life, I'm not sure. I've seen mine managers trying to implement this in various ways. I know BMA in Queensland they've got their own system, and it looks a little bit like this, but the terminologies for different sections and different roles are a bit different to what we're used to. AIMS. Who's aware of AIMS? What does it mean? Australasian? Inter-Service Incident Management System. Yeah, it's been in Australia for a while now, developed at the National Disaster Management College in Victoria, and adopted by those mainly the volunteer organisations, and it's spread through fire services and adopted by AFAC, and they now develop the system training packs and they sell them. I know I've done courses in Victoria. CFA Victoria became the definitive experts at one stage. CALM in Western Australia. Anyone aware of CALM? Department of Conservation and Land Management, West Australia. It's the strange system we have in this country where we have urban firefighters working in conjunction with forestry, working in conjunction with country firefighters. And it happens in Victoria and New South Wales, in South Australia with the Country Fire Service, West Australia were the first ones to amalgamate all of the emergency responders and then Queensland took it up early in the mid-90s, and now they've gone the whole hog, and they administrate Emergency Management Queensland, come under the Fire and Emergency Services now, not Fire and Rescue. They've changed their name. And as it says there, it's adopted from the NIMS system, which is developed by United States military. We're the first ones to implement this system, and it's quite simple. What's it based on? Anyone know? What type of system is it? Functional management. It tells people, it puts people in various roles, and it tells them what that role entails and what they have to do within those roles. It's a fairly strict defined structure, but it allows for flexibility. I took a team to North Queensland, far North Queensland, when Cyclone Larry came through, and we changed the entire structure and just named people different things. You know, there was a guy there responsible for resources, and that was the worst part. Innisfail and surrounding areas had no water, no power, no food, no accommodation, and so our role when we arrived there was to organise the people on the ground to keep those mods alive, you know, flying in hercs full of water and that sort of thing, and getting it to the right places. So you can adjust the structure to suit what you have to do at the time, and that's pretty self-explanatory. AIMS enables the seamless integration of activities and resources of multiple agencies when applied to the resolution of any emergency situation. Should change that to emergency and disaster situation, so it can be employed for anything. And that includes a truck fire in a mine site, or a structure fire in a mine site. There's plenty of opportunity for those things to happen. Queensland Fire and Emergency Services have their operations doctrine. It's their Bible. They developed it a few years back. Actually, it was developed by a team under the guy who's now the Assistant Commissioner for this area, this region, John Corkett. And it's a wonderful document. It tells you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it in all situations, and it's fairly comprehensive. So in that document, AIMS is called the Incident Management System. That's all. They just changed the title. A common application of operational procedures across both urban and rural divisions. Self-explanatory. Enhanced interoperability. There's a new, they made that word up, by the way. Interoperability between other fire services, other agencies and government departments. There was about 12 representatives from government departments sitting in the ambulance centre in Cairns when Larry was recovering from Larry, and my job as the incident controller of the management team was to connect all of those people. Guy from Department of Resources, he was worried about how do we milk 6,000 cows on the tablelands. That's all he worried about. That was his area. There was a guy there from electricity authorities. Towers down, no power coming into far North Queensland. How are we going to get those towers back up? That was his problem. So my job was to get them all together and make things happen. Provides clear and concise instructions, guidelines and tools to ensure effective incident management. So it's a fairly comprehensive package. If you went to AFAC and said, oh, give me the full AIMS training package, it comes with every bit of information you need to make this work, including documentation. I used to go to jobs here, were not major things, but I would go to jobs and I'd look around for this guy and Ray Walbank, and we would start doing paperwork. First thing, do your incident action plan. And I used to say to these guys, get me an incident action plan, do me a sit rep, because no matter where you are in the state, whether you're in the fire service or whether you're working for a mine, someone above you in the structure wants to know what's going on. Situation reports are very important. Get your sit reps underway very quickly, because if people know what's happening, they get off your back and let you do your job. I I put this in here because it's not just about the Queensland Fire and Emergency Services Act. It's about this thing. Because you get to a coal mine and they all say, "Oh, none of that stuff matters here. We don't look at workplace health and safety. It's all in here. It's all in this document." And to a certain extent, that's true. But I started asking some questions when I did a contract at Goonyella Riverside. And this legislation delegates responsibility to all persons who operate a coal mine or who may affect the safety and health of others at coal mines. So it says that the mine manager and his management team are responsible for providing that safe and healthy environment. But also, the people who work there have got obligations as well. And they're responsible for the development of safety and health management systems to manage risk effectively. And they also are required to produce regulations and standards to promote that risk management system. And of course the advisory committee. So the unions make sure that they have input into how things happen on the mine site. Provide representatives, provide inspectors, provide a competency management system. What does that mean? All you trainers? The competency management system? We all know that you can't ask someone to do a job they haven't been trained to do. You can't ask them to operate tools they haven't been trained to operate. So you have to have a competency management system within there to ensure that people maintain those competencies. And requiring a management system or structure. Lee Johnson, the former Commissioner of the Fire Service in Queensland, used to say, "Give me structure, structure, structure," because nothing works unless you've got it. You need a policy, which is what we're going to do. You need a procedure, which is how we're going to do it. And you need a structure of people to find out who's responsible for making it all happen. So nothing happens within an organisation unless you have those three things. Policy, what we're going to do, procedure, how we're going to do it, structure, who's going to do it. Without that triangle, nothing happens. Provide for an appropriate coal mines rescue capability. And they've been working on their systems for years. They've got a very comprehensive system for acquiring skills and knowledge and maintaining those skills and knowledge. Provide for an appropriate level of preparedness. So they've got to have procedures. What are we going to do when this happens? So you've got to identify hazards, develop a risk management protocol, and make sure that the people train so that they can operate in those areas, and provide for the health assessment of coal mine workers. Here's a question. Does this Act exclude a coal mine from the provisions of the Workplace Health and Safety Act of 2011? Does it? Yeah, it does. The Workplace Health and Safety Act has no authority on a mine site. The Coal Mining Safety and Health Act is where it's all in there. So in the absence of once they put that act together and they put a structure in place with their mines inspectorate, then Workplace Health and Safety Act has no authority on a mine site. Does it exclude the mine from the provision of the Building Fire Safety Regulations? Yes, they do. The Coal Mining Safety and Health Act does not have any of the provisions that requires a building to be built in a certain way. The Building Code of Australia still has authority there, and the fire safety regulations also say how that, look at your MAC camps, they all have to comply. Otherwise they're not a safe place to stay. People sleep there, people drink alcohol there, people live on in those camps. So you have to have some procedures and legislative requirements to make sure those people are safe. They're required under this legislation, the regulations, to ensure that you have adequate fire protection systems for the class of building. It ensures that you have adequate means of escape from that building and how that means of escape must be maintained. It tells you how special fire systems must be maintained. All of those things are contained in this regulation. This was a regulation that was written after the Childers Backpacker fire, hostile fire. and it's included in what they call the Bola legislation, building and other legislative amendments, they called it. So this replaced the Building Fire Safety Act in Queensland, the regulation. And yes, you must comply. It's a building within Queensland. The Coal Mining Safety and Health Act doesn't tell you how a building should be made safe. This does. So while it has workplace health and safety sections and statutory obligations, it doesn't have anything about how you should build a building. The problem with Western Queensland, or central Western Queensland, is that fire and rescue, or fire and emergency now, building fire safety officers, don't get out there. And there's big camps everywhere. I did the final assessment I worked for BMA for a while, and at Goonyella Riverside, and I did the final assessment on the village they built there on the mine site, on the lease. And the people that run that camp have to implement a fire warden system in accordance with the Australian standards for emergency control organisations. Anyone familiar with that? No? Ever done any fire warden training? They're required to do it, but because the fire service doesn't have officers out there, they're all auxiliary stations, all part-time stations, the fact is they don't get inspected. No one checks. Building fire safety officers talk constantly, they're a bit of a bore they are, they talk constantly about the four means. You ever heard of that? The four means? The means of informing people of the event of emergency. Alarm. Means of maintaining the means of informing the people of an emergency. So the maintenance of that system, that special fire service system. Means of escape. And the method of maintaining the means of escape. So there's the four means. If you've got that in place, you get people out of a building safely. They don't die inside a building. Childers backpacker fire, you all heard the circumstances? Very basic. There was a nutter who took a fancy to one of the young backpackers there, English girl, and she dismissed him and spurned him one night, and he went to the hostel and he lit a fire in the one means of escape, one exit from the place. He disabled the alarm, he took away the first two means, he disabled the alarm, and he built a fire in the one means of escape. So the four means were taken away, and 15 young people died. And that was a major international incident because they're all international visitors. John Howard flew in within the first 24 hours into that site. So, not too hard in those old buildings to cause that sort of havoc. Unfortunately, it took one nutter to do it, and 15 kids died. We go back to 1974, and we have the Whiskey A Go Go. 15 people died at the Whiskey A Go Go. The result of the Whiskey A Go Go fire was the writing of the Building Fire Safety Regulations in Queensland. 1976, they wrote that. And that stayed in place for a long time. Before that, all fire safety regulations were in the Building Act, which was administered by local government. Local building inspectors used to come and say, no, you've got to have a ladder down the back as a fire escape. Look at some of the old pubs in Rocky. They've all got the old escape ladders out the back. They don't comply now, but they did at the time. So the legislation is a result of tragedies. There's no proactive legislation, they're always reactive. The guy that wrote this regulation was from Rocky, and he was one of the first officers on scene there. Alan Titman, his name is. He's retired now, sounds to me. But Alan wrote that legislation. It's to make sure that people are safe in these situations. And it covers a lot to do with backpacker hostels, but most of it's about the four means. The four means. If you get people out, you inform people there's an emergency, make sure they've got a means to get out of the building, and you maintain that, people don't die. They get out. This regulation says, this Act and that regulation says, the Building Code of Australia, volume so-and-so, will tell you how to do this. Yeah. It's gone from prescriptive stuff, it was very prescriptive 10 years ago. Now it's what they call performance-based. You can apply different things to achieve the same outcome. There's a high-rise hotel down at Cotton Tree that has wall wetting sprinklers on every floor. You ever seen them? Instead of having big concrete walls separating compartments, they put a wall wetting sprinkler system onto the gyprock. A lot cheaper building method and achieves the same outcome. If there's a fire in that space, the wall wetting sprinklers come on and stop the fire spreading to the other compartment. So performance-based means alternative solutions, alternative engineered solutions to achieve the same fire safety outcome. 4 means notify people there's an emergency, make sure they can get out. 4 means it's very simple stuff. But they say that they have things like wherever you're standing within a building, if it's further than 20 metres to the nearest exit to get to a position of safety, then you have to have a second exit. All of those little things are in the Building Fire Safety regs, not in the Coal Mining Safety and Health Act. It's not in there. There's nothing in there to say that when you build a building on a coal mine site, you have to build it this way and make sure it's safe for people that work there. If it doesn't say it in there, it says it in here. Okay, well, let's go back to incident management. Incident management. Operational, tactical. What's the other one? Strategic. What's the difference? Strategic, big picture. We shall put the fire out sometime this year. That's a strategic outcome. Big picture stuff. Tactical, how are we going to do it? And operational, who's going to do it? Policy, government comes out with a policy. That's what we're going to do. And they'll put some operational procedures in place. How are we going to do it? And then we've got to have a structure of who's going to do it. Same thing. So who knows the basic structure of AIMS? Who's in charge? What do they call him? Incident controller. Call it incident commander. Doesn't matter. Different organisations call them different things, but it means the same thing. On a mine site, the mine manager calls himself, I'm incident controller. I control this. It's my mine. I'm a controller, but he sits in his control room while mines rescue guys are out there doing their job. We would suggest that the first attending officer in charge of the mines rescue team, he's the controller. But you've got to argue that with the mine manager. Particularly BMA have the same system all over the world. No matter what mine site you go to, they've got the same system in place. So you've got an IC. Who else is there? The guy in charge of operations. Okay. What else? What are you going to do? You're going to build a house, you've got to have a plan. You're going to put a fire out, you've got a big emergency, truck fire, you've got a guy with a heart attack working down on the mine site. All of these things are incidents that can be managed using this. You need a planner. You've got to plan what you're going to do. And the logistics guy, the logs guy, he gets the stuff you need to make it happen. Ex-police here, this is your management structure also, but there's something else that's missing. Hey, there's 4. Intel, good stuff. The intelligence officers. Our intel is called the information unit. And as you can see, the operations officer, he's responsible for all sorts of stuff. Air operations, divisional commanders, you've got sector commanders, and you can divide the incident into smaller sections. If you just keep it in one big thing and you've got 180 people working on the mine site or on the job, on the incident, it becomes a little bit more than you can manage. So you divide it into subsections, divisions and sectors, and that's you keep that simple and it works very well. For example, in a big wildfire, Western Division, Eastern Division. Simple. We all know, you look at a map and we know where the divisions are. Within those divisions you might have sectors. These guys have got to develop a plan, an incident action plan that will be approved and signed off by the incident controller. These guys have got to come up with a logistics plan. They've also got to come up with a communication plan. What happens if you can't talk to people in the field? You don't know if they're alive or dead, do you? You can't talk to them. You don't know where they are. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so it's very important that you get your structures in place and in place early. Early. I used to talk to the station officers in this area about this, and they would argue that they don't need to implement this for a rubbish bin fire on a Saturday night in Nambour. But I would argue that if you don't put a simple structure in place, this one, very early, then there's no way in the world when it escalates can you do that. It's too late. You're playing catch up for the next 3 days. And some of these jobs, is Ray here? No, he's gone. He went to Mergen with me at a big job, and we got there and it was just pandemonium. Pandemonium. And they were working with a whiteboard on the back of a ute about that big. It was just, they were catching up, they were playing catch up, and it was never going to happen. So you need to grab them by the shirt and pull them back. So if you relate this QFES reporting information structure to a mine site, it's very simple to change the person who has that title. So you've got this is the State Coordination Centre. That operates out of Kedron, and it's a very sophisticated room with lots and lots of equipment and lots of very well-trained people to make it happen. And then you've got a regional coordination centre. Well, on a mine site, it happens with the mine management team. They all go to a room, they've got a predetermined room, and they've all got a procedure they follow, and they've all got a role. It's functional management. It works. It's exactly the same with different titles and different people. What's the number one risk for the mine manager? I've got to tell you, mine managers quite happily shut down operations. All traffic stops. Everyone pulls to the side of the road, don't they? Yep. When there's an incident on, they just stop. And it's costing squillions per hour to do that. But that's not the number one concern of most mine managers. They're scared of the front page of the Courier Mail. There are shareholder companies, or Rio, BHP, BMA, the shareholder corporations. They want to make sure there's no negative press about their mine site going on out there. And once you understand that, it's easy to see the way they operate, and see the logic behind it. We call them incident control centres, and that's when you turn out with 1 or 2 trucks to an incident, regardless of what it is. As I said, it could be a truck fire, it could be a tyre fire, it can be a heart attack in one of the mess huts, can be anything. But once you turn out there, it's a control point. You've got to establish a control point. Here I am, I've arrived, this is what I've got, this is what I plan to do. Incident action plan, bang, on your radio. Now it doesn't matter if you're on a mine site, talking to your control room, or you're in the fire service or police and you're talking back to your comms. Same thing. There we go. Divisions, sectors, strike team, task force. Yeah. And you could end up with a structure of people in the thousands. In the thousands. If you think about the Victorian bushfires, enormous. Absolutely enormous. You would never be able to manage those things without this system. You would never be able to manage it. I took a team down to Sydney in 2003. Did you get a gig on that, Al? It's Christmas 2003 bushfires west of Sydney, and it just burned everything out. Trees that 5 foot diameter just burnt to a black stump that big. It's unusual fires. It just destroyed everything. Normally trees will survive. They're blackened and they survive, but it was that hot, it just burned them all out. Well, they had resources from the entire state, from Queensland, South Australia, Victoria. They had staff from everywhere on that job over massive areas. Half the state was burning. So, as I said, without this structure, you cannot make that happen. When you implement this, your resources stay under the direct administrative control of their respective agencies. So police come in, Department of Mines and, used to be Mines and Energy, I don't know what they call them now. Department of Mines people, they come in, they all come into your control point or incident control centre, ICC. And you've got to remember that they control their resources. Operationally, these resources may be assigned by the Incident Management Team, the IMT, as a single component within a complex operational plan. I mean, it's a fancy way of saying you can put whatever you like in there. You can add it to your plan so long as you've got a structure of people to make it happen and you've got the resources to make it happen. So your structure with your operations, planning and logistics is extremely important to make those things happen. The ability to integrate principal parties into the IMT is critical to the successful implementation of a management team. What does that mean? Principal parties. I want a senior, when I'm in charge in a job, I want a senior police officer sitting beside me with the authority to direct his resources, because I can't. You know? And it's really comforting to have a guy sitting beside you with a Glock on his hip. You know, they make things happen. The blending together resources under a single control structure is the most critical factor for a positive outcome. Keep them there. You get representatives come in and then they'll disappear outside for a smoke or something. You know, and think, where's the copper? Where's the guy from the Navy? You know, we get barges coming from Townsville up to Cairns, loaded with stuff we need. Where's the Navy guy? He's disappeared. So you've got to keep them in there. The incident management team must provide the leadership to direct resources toward a common set of goals. So everyone's got to be focused on this is where we're going. How do you do that? You make your incident management plan very straightforward and understandable. We need to achieve this, guys, and everyone's got to have their finger in that pie. It's impossible to implement multi-agency control unless responding agencies are willing participants. They've got to be committed to your plan. Commitment, that's all that is. Make the system work. Commitment. No major incident can be managed cooperatively and effectively unless there has been adequate preparation through training and pre-planning. Training, meetings, workshops and exercises must be conducted prior to a major event, we know that. The training is invaluable to individual and team confidence. If you've done it and done it and done it, it's so much easier when the pressure's on. We all know that. There are times when multi-agency response and operations require written agreements. It is important that these agreements are in place before the event. Same thing with mines. You know, when it hits the fan big time, the local agencies will come in. Police will go through that security gate at the front of the mine whenever they feel like it. They've got the guns. Right? These are police operations. If anyone thinks that, this is a mine site, it's a mine lease, you can't come in here, we look after this, rubbish. Police have got control, if they want to. Most times I come in and ask what you need them to do. Most of them will do that, but if they try to stop them from coming on site, same as fireys. You know, local fire service, you won't stop them. They've got authority to operate within the mine site. Each agency has the right to expect that its leaders and other resources are treated with respect within the IMT and the operational plan. You've got to get the local government rep in there because, geez, we need the graders and dozers and council resources. We need them to set up roadblocks. All of those things. You've got to treat people with respect if you want things out of them. When I was the area commander here, at no time did I pay for any road sorbent material. You see it, we get traffic accident, there's oil on the road, we see fires out there putting stuff on it. That stuff, it absorbs the oil and stuff, crap on the road. Well, I never ever bought that. As soon as I got here, I saw the bills for what they were buying here, and I went straight to the local council emergency people and said, about time you started buying this, it's your road. We don't own the road. Why are we paying for this out of our limited budget that should be for emergency response? So they started buying it by the pallet load, and whenever we were getting low, ring them up, another pallet would arrive. It's about coordinating with the right agencies. Yeah, this is about absence of other agency representatives. Deputy Incident Control is very important, because sometimes the IC's got to be talking to people and you've got to keep things going. So very important. What's another important role within the structure that I showed you before? Anyone pick up on it? Up near the top? Reports directly to the incident controller. What's the number one issue? Safety. Safety officer. Safety officer reports to no one but the IC, and he can direct everyone below him to make sure that safety is maintained. And you can apply this to anything, any operation, and you vary the structure to suit the operation itself, and it works. It works extremely well. ICS process on paper procedurally and the art of implementing are two separate issues. The art of the process on paper and implementing it are two separate issues. You know, it takes human beings to make things happen, and consultative human beings. They talk about command and control as C squared. Well, you can keep going. Command, control, communication, coordination. You can keep thinking of lots and lots of C's. And they're all relevant. They're all relevant to the successful implementation of these processes. Effective operations require exceptional leadership from all IMT members and the desire to make the process successful. Emergency operations are no longer above criticism. Everyone's got a mobile phone and everyone's transmitting it directly onto social media, and it's on the 6 o'clock news. So, you know, contemporary society has access to almost unlimited and instantaneous information. They go on for many years. I'm still talking about Childers and Whisky A Go Go. I mean, Whisky A Go Go was a lifetime ago. It happened the year before I joined the fire service. It was a major thing, but we're still talking about it. So any mistakes made, you will wear that for a long, long time. And well-managed operations will allow for opportunities for increased funding and support. What that means is, when things are going bad, they'll spend lots of money on training and risk assessment. But when, you know, if it's going well, if you put some systems in place that make the mine run smoothly, well, they'll keep you there. Anyone heard of, we all know about SWOT, don't we? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. A disaster creates organisational chaos, and it's up to managers to mitigate or remove that crisis. What's that last one? Reputation is a strategic asset in the eyes of all stakeholder groups. Do a good job and you'll get patted on the back for a long time, and maybe lots of contracts. Quick one on command presence. Who amongst this group here is showing signs of command presence? I know that the boss in the red hat, he's got his legs crossed, he's clenching all those muscles. It's a bit scary, that lot, isn't it? So who's got it? What does it really mean? The incident commander, if he shows an air of confidence, his speech is smooth and at a normal pace, is he encouraging teamwork amongst the incident management team? Calm, cool and collected? That's a commander who shows command presence. Anyone ever met Lee Johnson when he was commissioner? When he walked into a room, people stopped talking and wanted to listen to him. He had that command presence about him. And when he spoke in a quiet, calm voice, and people listened. No one interrupted him, so he had that command presence. It's a quality that's you have to work hard to show. Commander's role is about the safety, develop an appropriate strategy, make sure communications are in place. I cannot stress that enough. I've seen incident managers do everything right tactically. They're attacking the job, they're making sure that they do everything right there, but they haven't concentrated on communications. And I'll say it again, if you can't talk to your people in the field, you don't know if they're alive or dead. You've got to be able to communicate. So most important to get that communications structure in place. Implement IMS, Incident Management System. Do it as quickly as you can. This is now called Smith Street Command. Make sure you identify it. Commander is Inspector Greg Adams. Clearly define that you have established a control. You heard of LCES? Fireys know all about this. It's applied mainly to bushfires, but it's lookouts, communications, escape routes, and safety zones. You must have them. When you've got critical incident happening, you've got to keep that in the back of your mind all the time. Oh, yeah, never be afraid to appoint a safety officer. Or if you've got one spare bod, put him in that role if he knows what he's doing. A quick couple of words on situational awareness. That's all right. It's a learned skill, and it's something you have to focus on and concentrate on. I've got a son of mine's in the Army Reserves. He got to major level at 30-year-old and did a couple of stints in war zones and UN zones, East Timor, Bougainville, Solomon Islands. And he was very good at it. He would, when you step anywhere where there's trauma going on and critical infrastructure's failing and all those things, be aware of your surroundings. That's what it's more about. If you feel comfortable where you are, most times you're pretty safe. If the hairs on the back of your neck are standing up, it's time to stand back and get the hell out of there. You know? But people who lose situational awareness do some strange things, and they don't understand that they're doing it or why they're doing it. There's so many situations that you can cite. I did have one on there. The USS Vincennes, anyone remember that? USS Vincennes? They shot down an Iranian passenger liner in the Gulf, Persian Gulf. They thought they were under attack from a warplane. They called on this airliner to identify itself. You know, the IFF system, the identification of friend or foe, all aircraft have got that. And they didn't respond. They were supposed to respond and they didn't. And the commander of this warship, which was one of the most sophisticated weapons in the world at that time, radar-controlled weapon systems and so on, the first one of its kind, he buckled under the pressure. He had people saying to him, it's something missing here, something wrong. And he gave the order to fire missiles, 2 missiles at this thing. Took it out at 18,000 feet. 230 odd passengers gone. He survived that. I don't know how. He survived that. They covered it up. Covered up a few things. Yeah. But situational awareness, very important. And it comes to the team. If you see a leader, a manager of your team, not recognising facts that are coming in, we call that hard and soft data, don't we? Hard data is what you see yourself. Soft is what's coming in from outside sources. Take that hard and soft data that's coming at you, and if you see the commander is not recognising certain things, it's your responsibility to speak up. You've got to speak up and remind them of things. And the two call rule is very important. If you speak up and tell the commander, hang on, you're missing this and you've got it wrong, if he ignores you twice, it's time to remove that person. You've got to get in their face and say, no, stop. You know, people's lives depend on making the right decision, and you're ignoring this data that's coming at you. So that can happen on the smallest job and on the biggest job, massive job. I talked a little bit about mine managers and how they manage an incident on their mine site. They've got a predetermined group of people. When the alarm goes off on the mine, everyone hears it. Someone comes across the radio. All vehicles pull to the side of the road and stay there. And all the mine manager and all department heads will go to this one room, and they have a role that they've discussed previously. So they control the incident in their mines. And the guy, the mines rescue captain, will be the operations officer. That's the way their structure works. And that works for BHP, I know, all over the world, the same on every mine site. Yeah. No more questions. It's a good opportunity for training with incident management. Good opportunity. High level stuff, but it works for all low level things as well. Okay.